Life is like a surprise test you never studied for. Just when you think you're ready, it throws in a question like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you're like, buddy, I'm just trying to see myself making it through Friday. But here's the secret. When life gets tough, the funniest answer might be the smartest one. When life gets tough, get funnier. You see, toughness has a way of trying to crush us, to press us into silence, to make us believe we are trapped. But humor is like oxygen sneaking in through the cracks of a closed window. It keeps us breathing, it keeps us moving, and it reminds us that nothing is ever as permanent as it feels in the darkest moment. Think about it, resilience isn't just about grinding your teeth and pushing through. Resilience is also about releasing that pressure, letting out a laugh so big that the problem shrinks down to size. You're not ignoring the challenge. You're giving yourself the mental space to face it without drowning in its weight. Every time you laugh in the face of trouble, you're telling life, nice try, but I'm still here. And perspective, that's the genius of humor. A bad day can feel like a mountain sitting on your chest, but when you tell a joke about it, suddenly that mountain looks like a molehill wearing a funny hat. The situation doesn't change, but your relationship to it does. By making something ridiculous, you disarm it. You remind yourself that even in the mess, there's a hidden angle that can turn fear into fuel. In education, humor has always been one of the best teachers. Think back to your favorite lessons. Weren't they the ones laced with laughter? When someone made you chuckle, the lesson slipped into your memory like it belonged there. That's the power of humor. It makes the hard stuff easier to hold on to. Even in the harshest classrooms of life, grief, loss, failure, humor teaches you that you are still alive, still learning, still capable of joy. And when we laugh together, something miraculous happens. Shared laughter is the language of connection. It says, I see you, I feel you, and for this moment, we are in this together. When tough times isolate us, humor becomes the rope that pulls us back toward community. That joke you share in the hospital waiting room, that smile you exchange in the middle of chaos, it matters more than you realize. It's not about ignoring pain. It's about weaving light into the darkness so that no one has to stumble alone. Life humor is an act of choice. Life may not let you choose every circumstance, but it does let you choose your response. Chaos may swirl around you, but joy, yes, even silly, absurd, laugh until your sides hurt joy is always within reach. And when you choose it, you're not just surviving, you're showing life that your spirit is unbreakable. So when life gets tough, get funnier. Crack the joke, share the smile. Release the laugh that says, I'm still standing. Because laughter doesn't just heal you. It teaches you, it strengthens you, and it connects you to everyone else still fighting to make it through. And that, my friends, is how you win against life's toughest tests. When life gets tough, get funnier. That's not just a clever phrase, it's a survival strategy. Life has this habit of showing up with challenges like an uninvited guest at a party who not only eats all the snacks, but also criticizes your music playlist. You can't always stop that guest from barging in, but you can certainly decide how you respond. And sometimes the best response isn't anger or panic or despair. It's humor. Humor becomes that spark of resilience that keeps you moving forward when the world is trying to hold you down. It's the secret ingredient in human strength. The reminder that even when everything feels broken, there's still a part of you that refuses to break. Think about it. Have you ever been in the middle of a terrible day? The kind where everything goes wrong, from spilling coffee on your shirt to missing a deadline. And just when you think it can't get worse, your phone slips out of your hand and lands face down. You pick it up expecting to see a shattered screen, but instead you burst out laughing at your own clumsiness. That laugh doesn't erase the stress, but it resets your brain. Suddenly the weight you were carrying feels lighter, not because the problems vanished, but because your spirit refused to collapse under their pressure. That moment of laughter is resilience at work. It's the psychological equivalent of bouncing back on a trampoline instead of crashing straight into the ground. Resilience has often been painted as this stoic, hardened ability to endure pain. But true resilience isn't about locking your jaw and suffering in silence. True resilience is about flexibility. It's about finding a way to bend without breaking, to adapt without losing yourself. Humor is one of the most flexible tools we have. It bends reality just enough to give us room to breathe. When you laugh in the middle of your pain, you're telling your mind and your body, we can survive this. We can carry on. Humor gives you the distance to see your problems without being completely swallowed by them. Even in history, some of the most resilient communities have used humor as their weapon of survival. In the darkest of times, jokes have been whispered not just to entertain, but to endure. When life was merciless, people found ways to laugh because laughter was the last thing hardship could not take away. It was proof of spirit, proof of humanity, proof that no matter what was stripped away, Joy still belongs to the soul. Resilience is not just about getting back up when you fall. It's about getting back up with a smile that says, "You didn't defeat me." And humor doesn't just help us cope, it also heals. Science has shown that laughter lowers stress hormones, releases endorphins, and even strengthens the immune system. That's not just metaphorical healing. That's your body physically responding to joy. Your muscles relax, your blood pressure drops, and suddenly your whole system is saying, "Thank you for giving me this relief." When we laugh, we're not denying pain, we're balancing it with something life-giving. We're reminding our bodies and minds that even in difficulty, there's still space for wellness. But here's the beauty of it: resilience through humor doesn't mean the problem becomes less real. It means you become more real in how you face it. You stop pretending that everything is fine, but you also stop giving the problem the power to define you. It's like saying, "Yes, life, you've knocked me down. But guess what? I've still got a punchline left in me." Humor makes your scars into stories, your failures into funny lessons, and your pain into proof that you're still here, still alive, still capable of joy. Think of a time you've been around someone who could laugh at themselves. Didn't it make you admire them more? There's something deeply human about self-deprecating humor. When we make fun of our own struggles, we take ownership of them. They no longer control us because we've reframed them. We've stripped them of their sting by turning them into material. That's resilience in action. It's not pretending the fall didn't hurt. It's laughing about how awkwardly you fell and then standing up again. And it's contagious. Resilience through humor doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. When people see you laugh in the face of struggle, they find permission to do the same. It gives them courage. It reminds them that if you can find light in your storm, maybe they can too. Shared laughter becomes a collective shield, a way for groups to survive difficulties together. We don't just laugh for ourselves, we laugh for each other. We laugh to keep the flame of resilience burning in the community, not just the individual. Now, don't misunderstand me. This isn't about trivializing pain. Life hurts. Life can be brutal, unfair, and overwhelming. There are moments when laughter feels impossible. But that's the magic of humor. It can exist alongside the pain. It doesn't erase the tears, but it makes room for them to dry. It doesn't cure the wound, but it reminds you the wound isn't the end of your story. Laughter is a companion to resilience, a partner in your fight to rise again. So when life gets tough, don't just grit your teeth and suffer. Get funnier. Tell the joke. Smile at the absurdity. Find that one thread of joy and tug on it until it unravels into laughter. Because in that moment, you're not just surviving, you're proving that no amount of hardship can steal your spirit. Humor is resilience in motion, the refusal to let life's heaviness keep you down. It's your superpower, your shield, your reminder that the toughest battles are no match for a soul that can still laugh. When life gets tough, get funnier, because comedy has this magical ability to twist the lens on your problems until they look completely different. Perspective is everything. The way you see something determines how you feel about it, and humor is like the friend who grabs the camera out of your hands and says, no, you're looking at it from the wrong angle. Tilt your head a little. Now look, suddenly the monster in front of you isn't so terrifying. It's more like a clown wearing mismatched shoes. The situation didn't change, but the way you saw it did. That's the power of comedy. It reframes your struggles until they're survivable. Think about a time when something went horribly wrong. Maybe you locked yourself out of your car in the rain. Or maybe you spent hours on a project only to realize you saved it on the wrong file. In the moment, it feels like disaster, like the whole world is conspiring against you. But then you tell the story later and everyone is laughing, including you. The event hasn't changed. You still had to walk home in wet shoes. You still had to redo that work. But now it feels lighter. Why? Because comedy gave you a new angle. It turned the memory from pure frustration into something worth laughing about. That's what perspective does. It transforms what once felt unbearable into a story that makes you smile. Humor acts like a magnifying glass and a deflating pin at the same time. When problems look too big, humor zooms out and says, wait a minute, this isn't Mount Everest. It's just a molly hill pretending to be a mountain. And when problems puff themselves up, humor pricks them like a balloon until they shrink back down to size. You don't dismiss the challenge. You simply stop letting it dominate your entire field of vision. That's not denial. That's wisdom disguised as a joke. And it's not just about small, everyday frustrations. Comedy as perspective has saved people in their darkest hours. When tragedy strikes, humor can feel out of place, almost disrespectful. But for those who dare to laugh even through the tears, humor becomes a coping mechanism, a lifeline. A grieving family member making a joke about how their loved one would have reacted to the situation is not being insensitive. They're choosing to honor life with laughter rather than be consumed entirely by grief. Comedy doesn't erase pain. It gives us a lens to hold the pain at a distance so it doesn't consume every inch of our soul. Psychologists often talk about cognitive reframing, changing how you interpret an event in order to change how you feel about it. Well, comedy is the most natural form of reframing humans have. When you laugh at your mistakes, you're not saying, it didn't matter. You're saying, it mattered, but it doesn't define me. I can carry this with lightness instead of heaviness. That shift in thought changes everything. It changes how you respond, how much stress you carry, and how quickly you recover. Comedy makes reframing accessible to everyone because who doesn't understand a joke? And let's be honest, life is absurd. We spend so much time pretending it's logical. That everything should make sense, but it doesn't. Things break at the worst possible time. People act in ways you never expected. Plans fall apart like they were held together with duct tape. And in those moments, you have two choices. You can curse the absurdity, or you can laugh at it. One drains you. The other fills you with energy. Perspective means recognizing the absurdity and choosing laughter, because sometimes the only sane response to chaos is to admit it's insane and then chuckle anyway. Perspective through comedy also keeps us humble. When you learn to laugh at yourself, you stop taking your ego so seriously. You realize that being human means being awkward, clumsy, and imperfect. And instead of treating mistakes like a personal failure, you treat them like punchlines in the great comedy show of life. That shift keeps you from getting stuck in shame or pride. It keeps you flexible, approachable, and open to learning. Nothing builds resilience faster than a person who can laugh at their own mistakes and keep moving forward. But perspective isn't just personal. It's also collective. Shared humor gives communities the ability to see problems differently together. A joke in a tense meeting can break the ice and remind everyone that they're on the same team. A bit of laughter during a difficult time can help groups remember their common humanity. In these moments, humor doesn't just reframe your personal view. It reframes the collective lens. Problems suddenly look less like impossible barriers and more like challenges that can be tackled step by step with courage and a smile. And perhaps the greatest gift of comedy as perspective is hope, because when you can still laugh at life, it means you still believe tomorrow is worth showing up for. A laugh says, this problem isn't the end. It's a quiet declaration that life still has joy, that even in the middle of the storm, you can see the possibility of light breaking through. That's what perspective does. It paints the horizon in brighter colors, reminding you that no matter how dark the moment is, it's never permanent. So yes, life is tough. It will knock you down, frustrate you, confuse you, and sometimes make you want to scream. But when you let comedy shift your perspective, those same struggles become less frightening. They become stories, lessons, even punchlines that empower you instead of imprison you. Life doesn't always give you the choice of what happens, but it always gives you the choice of how you see it. And the funniest perspective is often the wisest one, because laughter isn't just a sound, it's a new way of seeing the world, a way that makes even the heaviest burdens a little easier to carry. When life gets tough, get funnier, because humor is not just a shield for survival, it's also a teacher. It's one of the most powerful tools for learning and growth. Think back to school for a moment. We all had that one teacher who was so painfully serious, who read from the textbook as though it were scripture, who spoke in a tone that could put even the most hyperactive student into a coma. You probably don't remember a word they said. But then there was that other teacher, the one who cracked jokes, who made you laugh while explaining algebra, who could turn history into a comedy sketch and science into a stand-up routine. Their lessons stuck. Why? Because humor is like glue for the mind. It makes information stick to your memory in a way that pure seriousness never can. Humor in learning works because it lowers your defenses. When we laugh, our brains open up. We relax. We become more receptive. Think about the difference between being scolded and being teased. When someone scolds you, your walls go up, your chest tightens, and you barely hear the lesson because you're too busy being defensive. But when someone teases you playfully, your walls drop, you laugh, and you actually listen. Humor has this incredible ability to bypass resistance and sneak wisdom into the soul. That's why some of the greatest life lessons come wrapped in laughter. And it's not just about remembering information. It's about remembering how to live. Humor teaches us that mistakes are not the end of the world. They're part of the curriculum. When you trip and fall in front of a crowd, you can either drown in embarrassment or laugh and turn it into a story you'll tell for years. That moment of laughter transforms failure into growth. Instead of a scar, it becomes a lesson wrapped in a punchline. Humor shows us that mistakes don't define us, they refine us. In fact, some of the most profound growth happens when we learn to laugh at ourselves. Self-deprecating humor is not about putting ourselves down. It's about lifting ourselves up by saying, I don't take myself too seriously. When you can laugh at your flaws, you stop hiding them, and that vulnerability becomes the soil where growth can take root. You stop fearing imperfection and start embracing it as part of your journey. Growth is not about pretending to be perfect. It's about being brave enough to laugh while you learn. Science even backs this up. Studies have shown that humor increases retention of information, improves creative problem solving, and boosts motivation. When people laugh, their brains release dopamine, which acts like a reward signal. That little chemical burst makes you want to keep engaging, keep learning. So when life gets tough and you're faced with something complicated or overwhelming, humor isn't just a distraction. It's a learning tool. It helps you break down the big, scary problem into something your mind can actually play with. And when you can play with something, you can master it. Humor also teaches resilience in learning itself. Think about the process of learning anything new. It's filled with frustration. You get it wrong again, and then you get it wrong in a completely new way. Without humor, that process feels like torture. But with humor, every mistake becomes a comedy sketch. You start saying, well, that didn't work, but at least it was hilarious. That mindset keeps you moving forward. Humor keeps the door of growth open, because instead of giving up, you laugh and try again. Even in the hardest life lessons, grief, loss, heartbreak, humor has a place. It doesn't erase the pain, but it helps us process it. Think of families sitting around after a funeral, sharing funny stories about the one they lost. The room fills with laughter, and for a moment the weight lifts. That laughter is part of the healing. It's part of learning how to live with the loss. Growth doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means learning how to carry it with grace. And sometimes grace looks like laughter through tears. Humor in learning also reminds us to stay curious. Children are naturally funny because they see the world with fresh eyes. They ask silly questions. They point out absurdities adults overlook. And they laugh at things we've learned to ignore. That's why children grow so quickly. They never stop playing, never stop laughing, never stop wondering. When we let humor back into our lives, we tap into that childlike curiosity again. We stop pretending we know everything, and we allow ourselves to be students once more. That's where true growth happens, when we can laugh at how little we know and keep asking questions anyway. And there's one more layer to this humor makes growth enjoyable. Too often we treat personal development like punishment. Long hours of serious reflection, endless self-criticism. Constant reminders of how far we have to go. But growth doesn't have to be grim. Growth can be joyful. Growth can be funny. You can laugh at the awkward stages of becoming a better version of yourself. You can smile at the irony of life teaching you lessons in the most inconvenient ways. Growth is not about marching grim, face toward perfection. It's about dancing, stumbling, laughing, and learning as you go. So, yes, when life gets tough, get funnier, because humor is not just an escape, it's an education. It teaches you to be flexible, to remember lessons, to embrace mistakes, to stay curious, and to grow with joy rather than fear. It's the teacher we all secretly want, the one that turns the hardest tests into something we can pass simply by laughing through them. And the truth is, the funniest moments in life are often the ones that make us grow the most, because they teach us not to take the lesson, or ourselves, too seriously. And that, my friends, is the smartest way to keep learning, no matter how tough life gets. When life gets tough, get funnier. By now, you've heard me talk about resilience, about perspective, about learning and connection. But let's bring it all home. Humor isn't just a coping mechanism. It isn't just a little giggle to distract yourself until the storm passes. Humor is a way of life. It's a philosophy, a compass, a flashlight you shine into the dark places of existence and say, oh, so that's what's hiding in the corner. Not nearly as scary as I thought. Humor is the sound of the human spirit refusing to be silenced, no matter how loud the world roars. Because here's the truth, life will never stop testing you. There will always be disappointments, heartbreaks, setbacks, failures, losses that make you want to curl into yourself and give up. There will always be bills on the table, deadlines breathing down your neck, arguments that sting, mistakes that haunt you at night. If resilience alone were enough, we'd all be superheroes. But resilience without joy is just survival. Humor transforms survival into living. Humor takes the raw material of struggle and recycles it into something that feeds your soul instead of draining it. The real beauty of humor is that it doesn't deny pain. It walks right alongside it. Imagine pain and humor as two unlikely traveling companions. Pain is serious, heavy, trudging slowly with a weight on its back. Humor walks beside it, juggling, telling stories, pulling faces. At first you think, this is ridiculous. How can you laugh when there's so much pain? But then you realize the laughter doesn't erase the pain. It makes the journey bearable. It makes the miles shorter. It gives you strength to keep walking. That's why humor matters. It's not an escape, it's an endurance strategy. And humor is universal. It transcends borders, cultures, languages. A smile doesn't need translation. A laugh in a hospital, in a classroom, in a crowded train is understood by everyone. That shared sound, that ripple of joy, is proof that connection still exists in a world that often feels disconnected. Laughter is our reminder that no matter how different we seem, at the core we are all trying to survive the same absurd human experience. And if we can laugh about it together, we can live through it together. But the most important piece, the one I hope you carry away, is that humor is a choice. Life doesn't hand you laughter on a silver platter. Sometimes you have to dig for it, create it, invent it in the middle of your tears. Sometimes you have to be brave enough to tell the joke when everyone else is silent. Choosing humor is choosing hope. It's declaring, I will not let this moment destroy me. It's rebellion against despair, and it's one of the most powerful rebellions we have. Think of the people you admire most. Aren't they often the ones who could find humor even in difficulty? The ones who could turn their hardships into stories that made others laugh and learn. Their strength wasn't in pretending life was easy. It was in laughing while life was hard. And that's a lesson worth holding on to. Because if they can do it, so can you. So when life gets tough, don't shrink. Don't harden so much that you forget how to feel. Instead, lean into humor. Laugh at the ridiculousness of it all. Laugh at yourself. Laugh with others. Laugh until your ribs hurt. Let that laughter remind you that the storm won't last forever. Let it be the proof that your spirit is stronger than your circumstances. Because here's the secret. The world doesn't really want perfection from you. It doesn't need you to be flawless or to have it all figured out. The world needs you to stay human. And staying human means staying able to laugh, even through the tears. Staying human means finding joy in the cracks, light in the shadows, jokes in the middle of the struggle. When you choose humor, you choose humanity, and that choice makes all the difference. So the next time life comes at you with its fists up, don't just brace yourself, smile, crack a joke, tell a story, be the one who laughs first. Because every laugh is a reminder that you are bigger than your problems, brighter than your pain, stronger than your struggles. Every laugh is proof that life cannot and will not break you. And when life gets tough again, as it always will, remember this, you carry within you a well of humor deep enough to refresh your spirit, connect you to others, teach you lessons, and light the way forward. Tap into it. Share it. Live by it. Because sometimes the best wisdom, the greatest strength, and the deepest courage sound a whole lot like laughter echoing in the middle of the storm. So go on, laugh. Grow, connect, reframe, resiliently rise, and never forget, when life gets tough, get funnier. That's not just a motto, that's survival with a smile.